What's up guys, it's Z here, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we are profiling Crystal Beasts. Finally, with Ghost Storm Past second haunting, we did get the Zenith Crystal Beast, which is now called Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, and with its release, I feel like the deck does have a playable strategy that you can use in order to be able to win, because before the deck felt like it had the tools to add basically anything that it had, but it just didn't have a destination of where it wanted to go, so you could actually have a win condition. But now, with this card being released, I feel like the deck is actually being able to be played at least at a fun level that you can at least get some games, and hopefully we are getting the new structure deck, so hopefully Konami will release some good cards, because I said this deck has the foundation to be a great deck. It just needs the cards to do so because it has the tools to search good cards. It's just that it doesn't have good cards to search, so hopefully we get something good from the structure deck. But for now, this is the build that I've come up with. I feel like it's the most competitive way you can play the deck right now, and saying Crystal Beasts and competitive in the same sentence is a bit far-fetched, yeah, but this is the best I could come up with to make the deck work in some level. So, before we begin with the video, if you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss upcoming content, and now, let's get to the deck profile. So starting off with the Crystal Beast monsters, we have to max out, of course, on 3 copies of Sapphire Pegasus. This is the main card of the deck, it's the bread and butter of the deck. So what this card does is that on summon, it puts a Crystal Beast monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard in your spell and trap zone. So this card, before, it did not give you something specific on its own, because you had to rely on having cards like Conclave to be able to use those Crystal Beast cards that you have on the field to be able to disrupt your opponent. But now, because of Rainbow Dragon Crystal Beast, you can get a free rank 4 on the field just by having Pegasus, which is yeah, the deck didn't have any one-card plays before, but now it does, which is cool. And also, I'm playing some other cards in the deck that can help you not only get more monsters on the field to go into Link 4s, but can also help you Synchro Summon during your opponent's turn, because the type and attribute of this card is very fortunate, because there are other cards from other archetypes that synergize with it, so you can search it and do other plays, because the deck on its own doesn't have something great, so you need to be able to play other cards from other archetypes in order to make the deck better. And this is a 50-card deck because you do play a lot of consistency cards. Ironically, in a deck like this, it does have a lot of searches, but it also needs a lot of engine requirement and bricks in order to be able to work. So this is why I feel like playing more than 40 cards makes the deck more consistent and better than what it would be if it was just 40 cards. So this is why I'm playing a very high number of cards in the deck. Now for the rest of the Crystal Beasts, we have 1 copy of Topaz Tiger. This is just another level 4 you can special summon, and it's the biggest one because Amber Mammoth is only 17, but this card, if you, worst case scenario, you summon it to attack something with it, it will go to 2k, so it's the bigger one. We play 1 copy of Cobalt Eagle. Now, Cobalt Eagle is here because it's a wind monster, because there is a play you do in this deck that can lock you into winds, so you need to still be able to special summon with a Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon from the deck, so this is why you need to play Cobalt Eagle. We play 1 copy of Ruby Carbuncle. This is the power play of the deck. When she can resolve her and basically get a lot of monsters on the field by using cards like Crystal Beacon and Crystal Promise to special summon this card, you get so many monsters that even summoning a Saryuja for 4 is not the most difficult thing for this deck, so you need to be able to get to those cards, because Saryuja gets more value in a deck that you search cards that you don't really want to search, but you have to, so you just want to put them back into the deck, so you can use those search effects again, which again, this is something that the deck has, which I'll talk about once I get to the next card. So yeah, being able to go into a Saryuja, not only will it fix your hand, but will put some cards that you don't want to ever have in your hand back into the deck. Now, the fresh new addition in the deck, we have 3 copies of Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon. Now, this card here makes the deck work. So what this card does is that it has 2 effects. The first effect, it's not the worst effect in the world, because it gives it some value when it's in your hand. So when an attack is declared involving Crystal Beast monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So it's a free 3k beater in some scenarios, because who doesn't love getting a free 3k monster on the field? But the effect that you wanted for the most is that you can banish this from your spell and trap zone when it is read as a continuous spell to special summon a level 4 or lower Crystal Beast monster from your deck with its effects negated, and then you add 1 ultimate crystal monster from your deck to your hand. Now, unfortunately, it negates its effect, so it's not like Ruby has synergy with this card, because Ruby is a level 3 monster, so it's not like you want to summon it with Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, because it won't get its effect off, and you need to play the ultimate crystal monster, and you need to be able to add an ultimate Crystal Beast monster in order to get this effect resolved, which is why this deck does have some issues. So I'll show you what you can do with this to basically fix this. But the thing is, this card makes Pegasus a 1-card rank 4 at the worst, which is basically better than the deck could do anything before. So this is why this card, not only will it help you push, but it will also help you do some plays. Now, the bad thing about this card is I mentioned that you need to add an ultimate crystal monster, and I'm playing 2 copies of Rainbow Dark Dragon in order to be able to use the effect. Now, you're asking why I'm playing this card over Rainbow Dragon. Now, the thing is, both this card and Rainbow Dragon, they are bricks. You're never going to summon either of these, because in order to be able to summon Rainbow Dragon, you need to be be able to have 7 different Crystal Beasts, which, even though we did get the Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, which counts as a Crystal Beast, so you would have to play 1 less copy of the bricks, but you would still have to put 2 more that I'm not playing in the deck in order to be able to do it. And not only that, but getting access to all 7 of these fast enough is just not efficient enough. So the reason I'm playing Rainbow Dark Dragon is because I'm playing Allure of Darkness in the deck. When you have a deck that searches cards like this, that you cannot do anything other than just basically get them to be able to activate your effects, it's very similar to how Genex Undyne worked in Mermails when you were searching Genex Controller. And even Genex Controller was a better card because it was a level 3 tuner that you could summon in order to make a synchro, but yeah, this card's even worse. But you would see that some people were playing Allure of Darkness with Genex Controller, which is something that people cut because the deck was consistent enough that it didn't really need to do it, but this deck actually needs to dig deeper into the deck to see more cards. So it's a play that is not the most optimal thing, but it's better than nothing, because I mentioned Saryuja being able to shuffle these cards back. You're not going to be able to summon Saryuja consistently enough to the point of being able to get rid of this card the moment you get it into your hand with the Rainbow Dragon Crystal Beast. So this is why I'm playing some other cards in order to make use of this card as a brick in the hand, just for a discard fodder or a banish fodder. And that's pretty much it. Now, moving on to the more generic support we have in the deck, there are a lot of cards that have weird synergy with Crystal Beast. So the first card is 3 copies of Noble Knight Shieldbearer. Now, this is a card from Sherry's archetype, and the thing about Sherry's archetype is that she used Light Warrior Noble Knight cards, and she also used some Wind Attribute Beast monsters. And guess what Pegasus is? So this card says that if this card is summoned, you can banish a light monster from your graveyard, you draw a card. This effect doesn't come up too often. Usually when I'm using this effect is like when I'm summoning this with Saryuja after I get a second copy in my hand, after I've used the second effect, which is basically the one you need. So you can banish this card from your hand to add a level 6 or lower Wind Attribute Beast monster from your deck to your hand. So this card searches Pegasus, and this card is also Noble Knight monsters. So we do have Chalice in order to be able to search this card as well. So you see right now what I said, that this deck being at 50 doesn't matter too much because of how many cards you have to search other searchers and then eventually get to your Pegasus so you can do your play. Now, when you can only search Pegasus, it comes to a point where you will draw cards that you can search cards that you already have in your hand. So I had to think of another card to play that this card can search to make the deck more consistent and give more power plays. And this is the 1 copy of Hope Ear Squadron. Now, what this card does is that it's a level 2 tuner. Of course, it's a Wind Attribute Beast monster, so you can search it with Shieldbearer. And it says that during your opponent's main phase, you can target a face-up monster you control, you special summon this card from your hand, and then you synchro summon using those 2 monsters. Now, when you get to the Crystal Beast play, you end with 2 level 4s on the field. Now, of course, you can use this for rank 4, but if you can search the Hope Ear Squadron as well, you can basically wait for those 2 monsters on the field, and then during your opponent's main phase, you use Hope Ear Squadron with 1 of the level 4s, you summon Desert Locust during your opponent's turn, you make them discard a card, and then you use Desert Locust effect because it's a synchro tuner that does have the Excel synchro effect to summon during your opponent's turn, and then you use Desert Locust with the other level 4 that you had on the field and make Baron de Flor with this. So Baron de Flor obviously is going to outpace every single rank 4 in the game, so if you can go for that play, then you absolutely have to because it's just so powerful. There's also another engine that I'm playing that basically forces you to go for that play instead of rank 4 because you cannot summon Xyz monsters, which I'll talk about right after, but this card just makes the deck have more options and more power plays, which is what the deck desperately needs right now. Until Konami gives us something archetype specific that can basically replace all those power plays, we need to be able to play certain weird cards in order to be able to go into more power plays, in order to be able to win the game, because Crystal Beasts on their own are hardly ever going to win a game without supportive cards. Now, another engine that I've been enjoying really well in this deck is the Wind Witch engine. We're playing 3 copies of Ice Bill. Of course, everybody knows by now this is the 1-card Crystal Wing, but the thing is, ever since we got Freeze Bill and Baron de Flor, this is also 1-card Baron de Flor, because I'll show you exactly why when I get to the one-offs that you play for this engine. But yeah, this card here is the reason sometimes you cannot go into Xyz monsters, because when you activate her effect, she's going to lock you for the rest of this turn, for the entire turn actually, into summoning only level 5 or higher wind monsters from your extra deck. So this is why the Hope Ear Squadron helps even more than you'd think, because if you summon Ice Bill and you do the play, then when you get to Pegasus and use its effect, which is why I said I'm playing the Cobalt Eagle as well, because you would not be able to summon anything other than wind monsters, because Glass Bill is the one that locks you into wind monsters entirely. But Hope Ear Squadron makes sure that those 2 level 4 monsters are not going to sit on the field doing absolutely nothing, unless you also have Conclave as well, which is another card I'll talk about later. But yeah, this deck, this card has a lot of synergy with the entire deck because of the most important cards being Wind Attribute. Now, for the one-offs that you need to play for the engine, we'll play, of course, 1 copy of Glass Bill. It's the card you're going to be summoning with your Ice Bill, and she's going to search either your Freeze Bill, which is the reason you can go into Baron de Flor, because 3 and 3 and 4 equals 10, so you can special summon her when you control a Wind Witch. And she also makes sure that your Glass Bill is not a dead draw anymore, because before, Glassbill was a brick. If you normal summon Glassbill, there was nothing you could do with her. But now, if you normal summon Glassbill, you can search this card, and this card can also be treated as a level 4 monster once you synchro with it, so you can go for either a level 7 or a level 8 synchro play, which is something. And we also play the 1 copy of Snowbill, because once you get access to your Harpy Squadron, you don't want to make Baron with your Wind Witches, because then you will basically lose out on the effect of Harpy Squadron, because you won't have another monster to summon. So you want to be able to summon Crystal Wing, the Wind Witches, and then go into your Baron with your Harpy Squadron play I mentioned with the 2 level 4s. We play 3 copies of Wind, the Wind Channeler. This deck having excess copies of searches means that you have free discards for a card like this, because this card, usually, it's not a card that people choose to play just because of how bad it is when it gets negated. But the thing is, this deck can search redundant copies of Wind monsters, especially because of how many searches you have. You're going to resolve 1 Pegasus, and then maybe you have 2 other cards in your hand that can search you a Crystal Beast, but it won't do anything, at least not yet, until we get cards. So being able to search a Wind monster, to use this card to search either a Harpy Squadron or use it early, searching maybe a 2nd copy of Pegasus so you can discard 1 to go for Ice Bell and then go for the Pegasus play. It's a really good card that basically makes the deck more consistent. And since I'm playing 50 cards, I need to play more consistency cards than usual, especially for engines that are so powerful like Ice Bell, in order to make them work more consistent. Now, the only hand trap we play in the deck is the 3 copies of Cyframe Gear Gamma, of course, with the 1 copy of Cyframe Driver. This is a reason why you need to play a card like this, because you need to protect your plays. This deck doesn't have much going for it, so basically an Ash and Ice Bell can hurt a lot. So this deck does have a lot of ways to use effects that your opponent is very tempted to Ash, because even cards like Crystal Bond, once you read it, it feels like it's doing a lot, while in reality it doesn't. But your opponent, especially if they don't know what this deck does, they're going to think that this is like the powerhouse card of the deck, so they're going to Ash it, and then you basically get a free level 8 synchro on the field so you can use with your Cyframe Gear Gamma. And the thing is that this card doesn't really contradict Ice Bell, because if you activate Ice Bell and your opponent Ashes it, you can use this card, you get both of these on the field, and by that time you need to summon a Wind monster, because Ice Bell has locked you into Winds. But now we do have a decent level 8 synchro monster that is Wind that you can summon with just a tuner and a non-tuner, which is not Stardust Dragon, thank god. So this card doesn't contradict with Ice Bell either. It protects your power plays and it gives you more on top of that. Now for the spell cards, we have 3 copies of Crystal Bond. This card basically adds you a Crystal Beast and then puts a Crystal Beast from your deck in your spell and trap zone. And yeah, this card with the Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, it did become more powerful. A lot of cards got more power because of Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, because when you have cards that search, they're only as good as the cards that they can search. So even if you had a deck that had like 1,000 searchers, if it didn't have anything good to search, it would not matter. So this is why I'm saying that this deck does have potential, because it does have the ways to search good cards. It's just that it doesn't have good cards to search yet. So we're hoping for Konami to fix that, but for now, you need to max out on this card. And we also play 3 copies of Rainbow Bridge. This is basically a card that can search a crystal spell and trap card from your deck to your hand, and it's not once per turn, so even drawing more than 1 of this can help you build even bigger boards and also search more interruption. So yeah, this card is amazing. Now for the one-offs, we play 1 copy of Crystal Beacon. So when you have 2 Crystal Beasts in your spell and trap zone, you special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your deck. That's how you get Ruby's effect resolved. This is most of the time what you're going to do, so you can get more monsters on the field, and then if you special summon a Pegasus from those monsters, you can basically get another Crystal Beast Rainbow Dragon, you use its effect to summon another one. So this is why I said you can very easily summon Saryuja if you open all these cards, and because these cards are all searchable from a card that is not a once per turn effect, it's not very difficult, because for example, even if you draw 2 Rainbow Bridges, one is going to get you Crystal Bond, and one is going to get you Crystal Beacon, and that's Saryuja right there. So yeah, it's not very difficult to get to these cards, even as one-offs, and the reason you're playing these as one-offs is because they need setup. It's not like a starter card like Rainbow Bridge and Crystal Bond. These cards do need setup, so you don't really want to see them in your hand on their own. We also play 1 copy of Crystal Promise. This is another card that can get you a special summon. It special summons 1 from your spell and trap zone, and of course being able to trigger Ruby as well, but the most important thing for this card is being able to get your Zenith Crystal Beast from your spell and trap zone to the field, so you can get a free 3k beater before having to attack with anything. So yeah, this card gives you some options as well. We play 3 copies of Heritage of the Chalice. Again, Shield Bearer is a Noble Knight, so this is another card you can use to search it, so you have searchers for the searchers, so which is why playing 50 cards is not a bad thing for the deck. And of course we have 1 copy of Rhoda, because again, Shield Bearer is a warrior, so we can search it with that as well. We have 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. I mentioned this, I wanted to make some use out of the bricks that Zenith Crystal Beast searches, because it's not optional to search, you have to search in order to be able to use the effect. So since we're going to add those cards in our hand regardless throughout our combo, we might as well use them for something. So Allure of Darkness is the first thing I have to be able to make some use out of Rainbow Dragon. And we also play 1 copy of Call by the Grave, because I mentioned that some hand traps can hurt you a lot, so being able to play around all that is important. often, which is why you need to play this and Gamma, of course. And for the trap cards, we have 3 copies of Crystal Conclave. This has been notoriously the only play of the deck ever since, I don't remember ever when this card got printed, but the thing is that this is basically a double compulse, so you bounce a Crystal Beast from your field and 1 monster in your opponent's field, and it also has an effect that it's a continuous trap, so you need to send to the grave to use the second effect, but if you don't need to, the first effect basically gives you a free float when your Crystal Beast monsters are destroyed by battle or card effects, so you can special summon a Crystal Beast monster from your deck. And this effect doesn't come up too often, but there will be some scenarios when it does, so it's good to know that this effect exists, but the main thing is that this is a searchable disruption that you can use during your opponent's turn. And the last card that we play in the deck is 3 copies of Paleozoic Deinonychus. Again, you basically get the memo of why I play this card right now. I just want to do something with the bricks that I have to add to my hand. So if I don't have Allure of Darkness, maybe I have this card, and if you can basically minimize the damage of this card that this card provides, I feel like it's one of the most powerful trap cards you can play because of how useful it is, being able to banish any face-up card, not just monsters, and being able to use this during your own turn, during your opponent's turn. And also with Crystal Conclave, you can bring this card back and then go into Link Spider and get more monsters on the field. So it has really good synergy with the deck, and I feel like even a full Paleo engine might make sense in the deck, but I haven't tested it thoroughly, so I feel like just this card for now, being able to make use of the free discard we get out of the addition of the Rainbow Dark Dragon, makes sense for the deck. Now for the extra deck, let's start with the Synchro monsters. First, we have 1 copy of Wind Pegasus Adignister. This card is here to complement the Wind Witch engine because you go into this by getting into your Glass Bill and your Ice Bill, and then you synchro with your Snow Bill to go into Crystal Wing, and not only do you get Crystal Wing on the field, but you do get a card in the graveyard that most of your opponents are going to forget that it has a graveyard effect. So when one of your cards is destroyed, you can banish this card from your graveyard or your field, but most of the time you're going to banish this from the graveyard to bounce a card your opponent has back into the deck. So it's an effect that if your opponent knows that it's coming, they're gonna play a little bit more weirdly, and if they don't see it coming, that can hurt them a lot depending on how many cards they have committed on the board before they destroy one of your cards. And it also has the field effect that you can destroy back row basically on how many Adignister monsters you have. You only play this, of course, so you're going to destroy 1 back row, but it doesn't target, so against some matchups it's a really good card to summon going second. But the main card you're going to be summoning with your Wind Witch engine as a level 7 Synchro monster going second is the 1 copy of Clearwing Fast Dragon, because you will be able to negate an extra deck monster, and then once you do that, then you can Synchro Climb into your Crystal Wing, which is right here. We play 1 copy of Crystal Wing. Again, an indestructible Crystal Wing by card effects can be very difficult to deal with, especially in a format like this, because we do play in a fusion format, and the thing about Crystal Wing is that when it battles monsters that has level 5 or higher, it basically honests itself. So in a format where Link monsters are not nearly as prevalent, being able to use Crystal Wing can be very problematic, because Guardian Chimera cannot deal with this card when you have summoned it with Snowbill, and if you make sure that you can just negate Mirror Jade, you can even have a really good matchup against Branded, because your opponent is not going to know exactly how to deal with this card because of these cards. You don't see them often, so that's the advantage of playing a deck like this, and cards like this, you're going to give your opponent a very hard time dealing. We play 1 copy of Cyber/Harpy Lady. This is a monster I was talking about that you could summon with your Gamma package as a level 8 wind monster. You can summon even under Ice Bill's restrictions. So what this card does is that when a spell or trap card or effect is activated, you can bounce a monster on the field, and that's the cool thing about Crystal Conclave. Crystal Conclave has a weird ruling that you have to activate it, and you cannot activate its effect right away to bounce a card. So you need to activate it preemptively, and then on a different chain you can activate its effect bounce. So this is why your opponent will always see the Crystal Conclave coming. So this is why this card has really good synergy with Conclave, because you can activate Conclave, you will bounce a monster immediately because of this card, and then you can use Conclave's actual bounce effect later, so you can bounce another card. So this card is really, really good. And we play the 2 cards that I mentioned that you need to play for the Hopier Squadron combo. We play 1 copy of Desert Locusts, and we play 1 copy of Baron de Flor. Again, you can summon Baron de Flor with a Wind Witches, and it's something that you're going to do against matchups that you know that Crystal Wing is not the best card. For example, maybe against Eldritch, Crystal Wing negating monster effects is not going to get the most amount of value unless your opponent has either Heavenly Prison or Eldritch in their hand, but yeah, Baron de Flor, you can summon her in a lot of ways with the deck, and it's a powerful card nonetheless. For the Xyz monsters, we play 1 copy of Tornado Dragon against back row decks, we play 1 copy of Baguska against combo decks, and Baguska is actually very deadly, again because of the reason that we don't play in a format where a lot of links exist. So if a lot of people are playing Branded, this card is very difficult to deal with when you're playing Branded, when the only link monster you're playing in the extra deck is Anaconda, which basically means that you can get another fusion on the field. This card is not easy to deal with, because all those monsters, they're going to switch to defense mode and have their effects negated. So the way you dealt with this card before was with cards like Cerberus and link monsters in general, but if we're playing extra decks with 14 fusion monsters, then yeah, this card can stall you for at least 3 turns sometimes. We play the Zodiac package. We have 1 copy of Chakanine, which will go into the 1 copy of Borbo, and you will land a direct attack, and then you will go into the 1 copy of Zeus. In any rank 4 deck, this is a really good engine to have, because going second, if your opponent doesn't see this coming and you basically get to stick Zeus on the field, they're going to need 2 negates in order to be able to not have their board broken, because you can just chain Zeus on top of its own effect. So being able to have 1 card rank 4 plays with Pegasus means that you can run engines like this as well. And for the Link monsters, we have 1 copy of Link Spider. This is here because of Deinamiscus. If you don't play Deinamiscus, there's no way to play this card, but I like it just because it gives you access to Nightmare plays that you can also draw cards, because we play 1 copy of Phoenix, so you can basically get a free discard, which most of the time, let's be honest, is going to be the Rainbow Dark Dragon. So not only are you going to pop a card, spell a trap your opponent's field, but you're also going to replace a brick with a potentially good card. So this is why Link Spider helps. We play 1 copy of Unicorn to Link Lime to get rid of another card, and we also play 1 copy of Saryuja. I don't feel like you need to play Appaloosa or stuff like that, because the thing is, this deck does search a lot of redundant cards sometimes, so being able to draw 4 cards and put 3 other bricks back to the bottom of the deck means that you can draw cards like maybe Conclave, like Deinamiscus. This card just gives you more value, and being able to special summon a monster from their hand means that you can also use the first effect of Sealed Bearer to potentially draw another card, and then you can summon Baguska afterwards. So not only do you get a Baguska on the field, you refresh your hand, but also you get a Link monster to attack with, because the problem with Baguska is that if it's the only monster in control, you cannot switch it to attack mode, because if you do, you're definitely not going to OTK with a monster that weak, so your opponent is going to be able to play. But if you have other monsters, especially Link monsters on the field on top of with Baguska, then you can potentially threaten your opponent, which is why Saryuja is such a good card in this deck. So yep, that's the deck, guys. Crystal Beasts is a deck that just feels very, very nostalgic from the anime, and I truly hope that Konami knows what they're doing this time and they make some really good cards, because the card that has been announced already for the structure deck, it's yet another boss monster, which is absolutely the last thing this deck needs. So it was not a step towards the right direction, but there's still time. They'll announce more cards, so let's just pray that they give us some good cards, because the deck does have the tools to be a great deck. It just needs something to do with those tools, so we'll see soon enough what Konami has in store for us. So yep, that's the deck, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and we'll see you next time.